Dennis Henson has spent over 3 decades collecting something most of us overlook: words, stories, quotes, poems that inspire, challenge, and push us forward. He's been a leader in real estate and personal growth, but what really stands out is his simple philosophy. The key to success is what you read every day. His new book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration, isn't a one-sit read. Dennis wants you to take it slow, enjoy it bit by bit, letting the words sink in and shift your mindset. He calls reading a law of nature, something powerful but invisible that can truly move the mountains inside of us. Today we're going to hear how this daily habit transformed Dennis's life and how it might just do the same for you. Let's get started. Dennis, welcome to the Enlightened Life podcast. And for over 30 years, you've collected stories, poems, and quotes that inspire and empower people to move past doubt and hesitation. And you understand better than most that success isn't just about what you do, it's about what you feed your mind every single day. Your book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration, offers a simple yet profound truth that inhabits the habits that we build shape the lives we live. So I'm truly glad you're here and you're going to share some of that insight with us. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, Scott. I'm
My pleasure.
looking forward to this.
You say that reading daily is the law of nature that moves mountains within us. And how did you first come to realize the incredible power of this?
I was I was investing in real estate. I moved to Texas 30 years ago. Now, I've been investing in real estate since 1970, so that's 55 years I've been in the business world. Um, I was doing so well with real estate, but I wanted to do better. I thought if I could attend real estate investor groups, I could learn new strategies, advanced techniques, and different things. But in the Metroplex, I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I live in Arlington, which is right in the middle of the Metroplex. Most people don't realize how big the Metroplex is. So in order to go to a real estate group in Dallas, it was an hour drive. And if there was traffic, it may be 2 hours. And it's the same way with Fort Worth. Fort Worth's really close to me, but it's a very long city. And the meetings were in North Fort Worth. So still, it was an hour. Thought, well, maybe I should just start a group in Arlington. And I did, and it was very successful. People came from Dallas and Fort Worth and Houston and San Antonio. We had people from all over Texas coming to our group. It was a meetup group, and it grew to become the largest real estate meetup group in the world. And it had over 10,000 members. So I thought, well, it's good to have these speakers, and I get to pick which speaker I want to hear, but I would really learn more if I taught. So I started what I called elite classes. And I would teach a number of people. They had to pay a little bit of money to come in. And if I wanted to learn about land trusts, I would schedule an elite class a couple of months out. And then I had 2 months to learn about.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
So I would teach, and I'd create slides and study really hard so I could answer their questions. And then I realized that after that class, I really knew a lot about it. It helped me a lot. And I did very well at that. So when a member came up to me and he said, I've seen how you invest, and I've seen your training, and I'm going to retire in about 3 weeks, and I want you to mentor me. He said, I'll pay you, but I want a one-on-one training. Scott, I didn't have time. I was so busy with my real estate and teaching those groups and then having a free meeting. I just told him, no, I wasn't interested, and that wasn't something I wanted to do. And then he looked at me and he said, Dennis, you didn't understand what I said. He said, in about 3 weeks, I'm retiring and you're going to mentor me. And I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do to get rid of
Yeah.
it? So he said, let's go out to eat and we'll talk about it. So we went out and he bought my lunch and he bought me a Whataburger. And so
Oh,
after lunch, he reached into his pocket, had a suit on. He reached into his pocket and he handed me a checkbook. And he said, here, fill this in. And I said, do you mean the amount? And he said, yes. And I thought, now I know how to get rid of him.
yeah, right.
I'm going to put a number here. No one in their right mind's going to pay this. And I handed it back to him. He took the check out without looking at the number, signed it, and handed it back to me. So that's when I started taking students. So I
Wow.
thought, well, if people are going to give me this kind of money, I better really be good at teaching, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
I put together a training program that I thought was pretty good, and it turned out to really be great because my students just were exceptional. They just went out and started just doing a great job. And I got a reputation of being such a great teacher that people started inviting me to come and speak at their groups. So I spoke all over the United States. I spoke at expos, even in other countries. Well, podcasts were just coming about, and there was a large podcast in Houston, and they invited me to be a guest. And I said, sure. So we were interviewing just like this, and the host said, Dennis, your students are just amazing, and there's all these gurus, but yours seem to just take off. What's the difference? Why are your students so super successful? And I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. If they can form success habits, they will become successful. Then he said, well, what's the most important success habit? Thought for a second and I said, have them form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves them toward their goal. So after the podcast was over, I thought, that was the right answer. Wouldn't it be wonderful if someone would come up with some kind of a tool to help people form that habit so that it made it easy? Because a new habit is hard to form. And
Right.
people are so busy, they just don't have time for something new. Nature doesn't permit vacuums, so everybody's life's full already. Putting a new habit in there is something that's difficult. Then it hit me. It was almost like a light came down and said, bam, Dennis, for 50 years, since 1975, you've been collecting the best success books, poems, quotes, articles. You have more than enough things to put together a book so that people can form this habit regardless of their time. If they have 5 minutes, they can read a poem. If they have an hour, they can read a short story. If they have 3 hours, they can read one of the accompanying books. It's listed in the back. And if they get home and they're exhausted and they think, oh, forgot to read today, they can read a quote. It takes 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
They'll go to sleep thinking about something positive. So this was in 2018. And I thought, well, I've got everything I need. In 2 months, I'll have a book. So I started working on the book, compiling and researching, getting permissions, doing all the things.
Sure.
And a year passed, and I was still working, and another year, and another year. So in 2024, after working every day for 6 years, then Real Impact Daily Inspiration came out and
That's
showed up. I used to dream about holding the book up. I used to think, one of these days, all
yeah.
this work,
Yeah.
I'm going to have the book to hold in my hand. So there you saw it. That's the culmination of a dream.
Yeah.
So I put it up on Amazon and I started getting ratings. People reviewed the book. Well, I got like 10 or 15 and they were, average 5 stars, 20,
Hmm.
5 stars, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100. I think I've got like 115 ratings and I still have
Amazing.
5 stars. So the comments are so powerful. People say, "Oh, the book came just when I needed it. I was struggling, and using this helped me pull myself out of the funk that I was in. So I'm really excited about it. And I didn't write it really to make $1 million, kind of like Earl Nightingale. You know, he
Yeah.
wrote his first motivational material. I didn't write it to become wealthy or sell it. Uh, there was such a demand for it. He had a friend that was in the recording business, and he said, "Well, would you make a record of this so that I can pass the records out?" I said, "Sure." And they marketed it. And the next thing he knew, he had a million seller. He got a gold record. So
Wow.
that's kind of how this is. I'm trying to help 1 million people, and
Yeah.
like Zig Ziglar said, if you can help people get what they want, you get what you want. So the goal of the book
True.
is to really help people, and I sincerely believe if they use it as intended, it will help
It
them.
will. Yeah. Can you share either a quote or a story that maybe have had some profound impact on yours? And you can summarize it because I know you don't have to read the book, but just something that has had a profound impact on your life that you've included in your book.
The story of Lincoln is one of my favorites. Now, people ask me all the time, there's like 33 stories, and with the sub stories, there's about 55. Some of
Hmm.
the stories have stories, like the story of Lincoln's probably 15 different stories. But there's one story in the book where Lincoln, he was broke. He didn't have an education. He didn't know what he wanted to do. And he was just doing whatever he could. The people loved him. They tried to get him to go into politics because he was a great debater. But he didn't have a first grade education. And he couldn't get any business to work. Every business he tried failed miserably. So he was a friend had given him a general store on credit. You take the store and you just pay me for it on credit, nothing down, and he took it, and it was failing. So a wagon drove up, and this settler was going back east. He says, "This life is not for me. I'm going back east, and my covered wagon is too full. And you've got a general store. Would you look in the wagon?" Well, Lincoln only had 50 cents, and it was in his pocket. And he said, "No, I'm not interested." But he didn't tell him he didn't have any money, but he didn't. He only had 50 cents. And the guy was persistent. He said, "Oh, come out and look." Said, I've got this barrel that you can use for your general store to store stuff. Well, most of the stuff that Lincoln had in his general store came in barrels. He didn't really need a barrel, but he had a kind heart. So he reached in his pocket, and the guy said, "I'll give it to you for 4 bits, which 50 cents." So he reached into his pocket, gave him his last penny, and took the old barrel and
Yes.
stuck it in the back room. You know this story?
No, I don't. I've never heard it. This is good.
So a few months later, he found a use for the barrel, and he rolled it out, and he realized, wait a minute, there's something in this. So he took the top off and dumped it out on the floor, and beneath some trash was a set of law books. It was an old English law books. Well, Lincoln loved to read. He loved to sit out in front of his general store under a tree. So he took those law books. It was an entire Bible. He took them and he read them, and he just devoured. He loved them. So he started going to court. He started going and listening to trials and watching the judge and listening to the debates. And he looked around the courtroom, and he smelled the smell, and he saw the people debating, and he thought, "I'm home. This is what I need to be doing." Now realize this was a guy who was broke. His store was failing. He didn't have enough clothes to wear. He didn't even have a first grade education. He barely had. He barely could use the English language. He decided, "I'm going to pass the bar. I'm going to become an attorney in Illinois." And and once he decided that, his life totally changed. He passed the bar. He not only became an attorney, he became one of the top 2 attorneys in the state. And his business partner was number 1. He may have been number one or number two, but they were the two top attorneys and they made more money than the
Wow.
governor. So he went from being totally broke, having nothing, no education, that once he decided this is what I want and I'll do whatever it takes to get it, then his life changed. And there's story after story after story in this book about people who decided what they wanted, and were willing to pay the price to get it.
Right.
And now we know their name. Had they not, we would have never heard of Lincoln,
Right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Sylvester Stallone, or Mary Kay Ash.
Yeah.
The list just goes on. Fred Astaire. The list just goes on and on and on. These people just refused to quit once they decided, I know what I want and I'm going to get it. So one of the things that's great about this book is this. It has a picture of Aladdin's lamp on the front. Can you see the lamp?
I can see it.
Okay. If you go to realimpactbook.com, the very first tab says the mystery of the lamp. And the lamp represents the story of Aladdin. So a young man found an old lamp, and he found that when he was cleaning it, if he rubbed it, it had magic powers. It would do anything he wanted. So he would rub it, and the genie would come out and say, okay, master, you can have anything. What do you want? You see, Aladdin got nothing until he decided what he wanted. And that's why there's a lamp on the book. Life is the same way. Once you decide what you really, really want, and you're willing to pay the price to get it, you can have pretty much anything you want. And the proof is in the book. I've read thousands of motivational stories, and actually I had hundreds. I had to trim the book down to the very best ones just so it wouldn't be an encyclopedia.
Right. So you've worked with a lot of students and leaders. So what's the most common mindset obstacle you see that holds people back?
Their most common obstacle is their butts.
Yeah.
They think, well, I'd like to do that, but
But
I don't have the money. But I don't have the education. But I don't know the people. But I don't look good. I can't speak well. They come up with all of these different buts. Well, when they took from me, I kicked them in the butt. I told them
literally. Yeah.
keep their butts out and said, no, you're not going to have any butts here. When you come in, it's an and. You're going to change your butts to an and. All right. I don't have the money, and I'm going to go see 5 banks this week, or I'm going to talk to private lenders, or I don't have the education, and I'm going to read something every single day. So I changed their butts to ands, and it was amazing what happened. It's all about mindset. I'm writing another book called The 7 Secrets of Success. And the first secret of success is getting your mind right. And this falls right in line with that. But getting your mind right, as Napoleon Hill told us many, many years ago, is you have to have a definite purpose. Then you have to have a burning desire. Without the burning desire, the definite purpose is not going to help you much. And then you have to have a strong faith so that you believe that no matter what happens, you're still going to be successful. Even if you fail and lose everything, it doesn't matter. Your faith is going to pick you right back up, just like Edison. You know, Thomas Edison's pretty famous. I mean, he's been dead for almost 100 years, and we still know what he did, and we still know his name is recognized by everyone. But what most people don't realize, in his mid-60s, he wanted to be an inventor, and he had a large laboratory. And back then, all of the buildings were made of wood. So one of his experiments went awry and it started to fire, and everything he had was in that laboratory, and everything he had burned down, all of his experiments. He had nothing left. And when his wife and daughter arrived at the fire, he said, oh, honey, look at this beautiful blaze. You'll never see anything like that again. And the next morning, he got up and started over. And I like to say with nothing, but it wasn't with nothing. His friend Henry Ford loaned him $250,000.
Oh, well.
Well, that was a pretty good starting point. But everything he invented that we know about today was after that fire.
Wow.
So, if you have a determination, a burning desire, a definite purpose and belief, it's kind of hard to stop someone like that.
So, in your experience, I mean, imposter syndrome is real, right? I mean, we've all dealt with it. And
Yeah.
how do you know, how does it change a person's trajectory? How do you get past that?
But that's a good one of the quotes in the book says, look over the fence. When you come to an obstacle, you don't stop, you look past that, and you said the
Hmm.
words. But this book is great for that because the easiest way to get out of imposter syndrome is to become really, really good at what you do
Mm.
or have a lot of knowledge. Like when I started the real estate group, I wanted more. I was not that I was a good real estate investor, but I wanted to become a great real estate investor, and I knew
Sure.
knowledge was the key to get there. So, if you want to get past the imposter syndrome, think about, well, why do I not think I'm capable? Okay, well, let's fix that, and then it's a daily process. So you decide, well, I want to fix that. That's your definite purpose. Develop a burning desire. So you work on it every single day
Yeah.
and then believe. And before long, people will be coming to you asking, how do you do this? Or why do you do this? You'll become the expert.
Yeah, and you're talking about imposter syndrome too. A word that just popped into my head was worthy. It's not even just I'm not capable. Sometimes they just don't think they're worthy. Well, why me? Why would anyone want to support me? I mean, I know I can do it. I can do a great job, but why would I be worthy of this? Why am I worthy of this? And words have power. They really do. So to be able to change the words that you use and start thinking about, yeah, you are worthy and you are capable, so why not you?
Yes. Well, if you go back to some of the most powerful stories in the Bible, Joshua or Moses didn't think he was worthy. What am I going to say when I'm supposed to go talk with his king? He'll put me to death. And asking him to let all of his slaves go. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I can't do this. And then Joshua, when God said, you're going to go take over the promised land, you're going to defeat Jericho. Well, this was a fortified city of the greatest power in the world at the time. And, they'd been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. They didn't exactly have the tools to go in and fight this army. And so
Yeah.
he hesitated a long time and he tried to talk God out of I don't think I can do this, but he did it.
Sure.
And so, you take courage from stories of people, it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. Those are just great stories of people who doubted themselves. And there's stories of people uh, in the early centuries, in the 19th, the 20th, the 21st century. I mean, it doesn't matter where you look. You can find stories of people who doubted themselves, who became extremely successful, that everyone knows.
Yeah. Can you talk a moment about the connection between mindset and momentum? How do your daily habits affect the forward motion, so to speak?
I'm glad you said that. This book and the habit that you form is like putting a rudder on a boat. Because before you can do the magic formula that's described in the book, the very first thing you have to do is decide what you want. That's the first thing with the magic formula. And then you have to move toward it every day. If you're going to do the magic formula in the book, once you decide what you want, the habit will give you a daily reminder, because people get up and they think, oh, well, what am I going to do today? Well, if you have this habit, you don't ever have to worry about what you're going to do today. You're going to move towards your goal, and it's going to remind you of what your goal is. So, and remind you of your definite purpose. Imagine a ship out in the middle of the ocean, and it's the greatest ship in the world. It's totally all decked out, has
Yeah.
everything. It's worth millions of dollars, but doesn't have a rudder. So, where's it going to
Right.
go? You don't
Right.
know. So this habit is a rudder. It's a daily reminder. Well, this is what I want. I want a million people to have a copy of my book, and I want it to help a million people, and I'm going to move in that direction every single day. And the next day, you remind yourself over and over, and it's like the rudder keeping you from moving into a different plan.
Sure.
So many people fail because they'll start something and then they'll see a shiny object over here and they'll forget about this and then they'll move over here. So having a goal and a plan and moving that direction is one of the major keys to success.
Yeah. What advice would you have for someone who's really kind of overwhelmed by all the self-help stuff out there and it doesn't really know where to start? Besides buying your book, because that might be the first place to start. But beyond that, how do they move?
Well, the my book is not like the other self-help books.
Hmm.
If you buy Think and Grow Rich or The Magic of Thinking Big or any number of others, you can read those books all the way through and they'll help you. This book was not meant to be read all the way through. There's too much in it and it's too powerful. It's like taking the Bible and saying, I want to be a good Christian. I'm gonna read the Bible all the way through. Well, that wouldn't really help you much. That's not how the Bible's set out. You're not supposed to read it all the way through. And this book is set out the same way. You're only supposed to read until something powerful hits you that you can contemplate. Back in the 5th century, a group of monks developed a way to study the scripture and become closer called Lectio Divina. So what they would do is they would take a scripture and they would read it silently. Then they would imagine themselves being part of it. Then they would read it out loud. Then for the rest of the day, they would contemplate that scripture or that verse or that story in the Bible. So I was on a podcast probably 6 or 7 months ago when I was telling about this book, and he said, that sounds like Lectio Divina. And I said, what is that? And so he told me, and I went back and studied it, and it's exactly what it is. You're going to read and you're going to get inspired. Well, stop. Once you're inspired, you stop, and then you put yourself in that position and you contemplate it and you say, how can this be part of my life? How can the will and determination of Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone or Disney? The Disney
Yeah.
story is the longest story in the book. And I probably enjoyed writing that more than any of the others because I learned so much that nobody knows. Everybody knows the name Disney,
Right.
but very few people have any idea of the struggles the guy went through.
He did the
Uh,
bankruptcies and
oh, yeah, it
really
was
he had, what do they say, a
bad.
dollar and a dream, and he
Yeah.
looked what he built. Yeah.
People would steal from him. He wasn't a very good businessman. His brother was. And had it not been for his brother, he probably wouldn't know the name Disney, but he would make critical errors and give up things that he didn't really have to, but he learned from his errors. It's so interesting. And he actually spurred an entire industry uh, from his very humble beginnings in a business that failed totally. Uh, the people who worked there went on to create Woody Woodpecker and Looney Tunes and all the cartoons that's old.
Right. Right. Right.
Really spurred. Originally, the seed was cast in not St. Louis, but Kansas City, Missouri, of all places. That's where cartoons started, in Kansas City,
Oh,
with
interesting.
Disney's first business, Life-O-Ground.
So I want to give you an opportunity just to, anything you want to leave the listeners with today that we haven't talked about?
Okay, well, I would love to give them all a full ebook copy to help them for free, no strings attached. If they go to realimpactbook.com, scroll down to the bottom where it says podcast attendee, you click on that, you put your name and email, and you get an instant download. There's three
Wow.
gifts. There's three gifts. That's one of them. You get all three gifts. So it's kind of like rubbing the magic lamp. You get three
Yeah.
gifts. Well, why am I doing that? You don't have to buy anything. I'm not putting you on a mailing list. You're just getting a book. Well, why? Well, first of all, I want you to see how I write because I'm writing other books. And if you love this one, you probably want to buy one of the others. I hope.
Sure.
And you'll read this and you'll think, oh, well, my nephew is graduating from college. This would be a great book for him getting started, help him decide what he wants to do, or a high school graduate, or maybe you're a grandparent, give something, a legacy gift to your grandchildren. The deluxe copy of the hardbound book is literally beautiful. I was being interviewed on a podcast by a publisher who actually creates books. And he held the book up and he said, Dennis, this may be the nicest book I've ever held in my hand. Well, I used to own a printing company, so I knew the best paper, I knew the best cover,
Yeah.
how to design. I mean, so it is a nice book. If you want to give a legacy gift, it's nice. So go and get the book, let it help you, share it with other people. I don't care. And if you want to know about the other books that I'm writing, just click on the link that says, let me know when you have new books. So
Fantastic.
I hope it helps you. If you want to get in touch with me for a speaking engagement or radio program or another podcast, it says contact us at the top, and it has my name, my email address, and my phone number.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Friends, Dennis Henson's story reminds us that success isn't a matter of luck or chance. It's a daily ritual, a quiet force that shapes everything beneath the surface. So if you're struggling with doubt or stalled momentum, Real Impact Daily Inspiration could be the catalyst that shifts your life's course. Find it at realimpactbook.com, where inspiration becomes action. And if you're ready to face your own mysteries, to seek answers beyond the ordinary, visit me at mediumscottallen.com, book a reading, explore my work, or get a copy of my book, Be in the Presence of Light, a funeral director's journey from mourning to mediumship. Your journey will start right there. For those drawn to the shadows and the unexplained, watch Dark Echoes Paranormal, streaming now on Amazon Prime Video and Paraflix, of which I am a featured medium, be coming out on Apple TV and Tubi very shortly as well. And so thank you for being with us here on the Enlightened Life podcast. And remember, sometimes the smallest habit can move the largest mountains. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and thank you for joining us.